Mao was a practical man. He did not have anything against commerce. Okay, he did not hate merchants. He did not hate people profiting. What he hated was profiteering whilst not providing anything for the population. Okay,
Yeah.
this is not, some extreme leftists, or some who claim to be leftists, support Mao because they didn't like profit, because supposedly Mao didn't like commerce, or stamped out capitalism, and then Deng brought back capitalism no, this is nonsense. Mao very much supported, no, this is not capitalism. Mao very much supported mercantile activity.
Mira que ya viene la revolución, para que se asustan será pa' mejor. Es el pueblo entero el que ya está gritando, viva la revolución.
Iranian nuclear weapons development.
They have turned the island into a communist hellhole.
The experiment in Venezuela has failed completely.
I went to China in 2019 with Ophelia. We went to Jiganshan. Am I pronouncing it right? Jiganshan?
Yes, Jiganshan. Yes.
Dude, it was like so beautiful, man. It was such a beautiful experience seeing the birthplace. I think it wasn't the People's Liberation Army yet. It was something before. What was it called? The Chinese Red Army. And oh my God, it was such a beautiful experience being there, and like seeing the artwork. The way that China preserves socialist history is beautiful, because, like, when you think of museums in the West, people think of like the London Museum or New York, and they think associated with bourgeois. But what's beautiful about going to China and the museums.
And those museums are actually, don't forget, that's the imperialists displaying their war loot.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Those are their war loot. Those are their those are loots. That's basically stolen goods.
Right. Yeah, and it's like going to China and just seeing the optimism of like let me show you a picture, bro. Because hold on, this is this is one picture that I took of this family in this is in Jinganshan. Oh, yes. This is for an annual celebration. I forget what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about. Why don't you tell people a little bit about Jing, if you're familiar with it? Tell a little people about Jinganshan.
And I've never been myself. I've left China when I was a young child, and I've never been back to Jinganshan, but I will definitely go one day.
You have to go, man.
Was a a little bit of background. In 1925, the communists and the nationalists, the communists, joined the Nationalist Party, and they established their army, in the form of the Huangpu Military Academy. And long story short, the official government at the time was still run by Beiyang warlords, which is basically generals of the long story short, generals of the former imperial army, a military government, a military junta, if you will, set up by the the generals of the former imperial army. And so a northern expedition was launched. A revolutionary expedition was launched, led by Chiang Kai-shek, who, nominally at least, led by Chiang Kai-shek. But then he betrayed the revolution by turning against the communists because he wanted money for guns and for bombs and so on and so forth. He wanted money, so he went into an alliance with bankers and capitalists, and started to slaughter the communist elements within his party in an incident called the 412 incident, the April the 12th massacre in, I believe, 1926. But in 1927, the following year, Chou En-lai, which is Mao's future, the man that would become, Mao's prime minister, led an uprising, rallied soldiers, communist sympathizing soldiers and troops within the National Revolutionary Army, Chiang's army, and took over the city of Nanchang, historically known as the Nanchang Uprising. This uprising, however, did not succeed did not go according to plan per se. They took over the city, but then reinforcements came and they were beaten back and they melted away. However, in parallel to this, Mao, at the time, he was not the leader of the Communist Party at the time. He was just not even deputy leader, but a deputy part of the Central Committee, but nowhere near the top. He's part of the Central Committee, but he wasn't even a full-time. He was like a part-time reservist, a substitute committee member at the time. Went into his home province of Hunan, and launched the the Autumn Harvest Uprising. And practically at the same time, both uprisings failed. But Mao then decided to take his defeated army, around about 800 men and about 200 rifles at the time, to into a Jinggang Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
He found a place in Jinggang Mountain, and that was Jinggang Mountain. And when the remnants of Zhou Enlai's uprising found out about this, Zhu De, which was later commander-in-chief of the PLA, the first of the 10 marshals, the most senior of the 10 marshals of 1955, decided to lead the remaining 800 men from the August the 1st uprising to meet Mao in Jinggang Mountain. And they set up a revolutionary base area there. And what they did to sustain themselves was they carried out land reforms. They took land from big landowners and distributed it amongst peasants. Good landlords, they left some land for them, to farm for themselves. Bad landlords, i.e., those who were guilty of murder or extortion or whatever, or drugs, were boom executed. And long story short, they set themselves up there in Jinggang Mountains. Chiang Kai-shek wouldn't have, and also another army led by Peng Dehuai, who later led PLA forces in Korea, also joined them. So the three armies met in Jinggang Mountain. And this was essentially the first of many revolutionary base areas that was the key to the success of the Chinese Revolution.
And you're looking at the mountains right now, by the way, guys. I'm showing these pictures are in the exact spot that Comrade Tian is talking about, Jinganshan.
And and Chiang Kai-shek wouldn't have any of this, and he decided to, he wouldn't have any of this, and he decided to attack them again and again and again. But each time, each offensive was launched, each encirclement campaign was launched, the communists actually just got stronger and stronger and stronger, because of Mao's leadership, until after the fourth encirclement, the actual leaders of the party moved to Jinyang Mountain from Shanghai, including leaders such as Bogu or the 28 Bolsheviks, those who were inspired by the Soviet Revolution, but they didn't understand that China's material conditions were very different from Russia's. So therefore, China's revolution cannot be replicated. Cannot replicate the Russian example of success. We've already got a formula down here, because this wasn't really, because remember Mao's revolution, idea of revolutionary base areas that's set up by Mao and Zhu De, and later Zhou Enlai also saw the benefits of it later, and turned around and quickly quickly ended up supporting Mao. And another man was Peng Dehuai, the one that later led the campaign in Korea. They were not actually part of the Central Committee. They were not. They were just. They set these base areas up by themselves without any orders from the Central Committee or anything. Because the Central Committee was actually essentially the China branch of the Third Communist International Movement, which was headquartered in Moscow. I'm rambling here. I'm going on here.
No, keep going, man. I'm digging this, bro. I'm digging this, man.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm digging this.
So as soon as they came in, they decided, no, we're going to follow the Russian example. We're going to follow the Russian example. That is the successful example. We are going to follow it. And they ousted Mao. And they decided to long story short, they absolutely screwed over the economy of the revolutionary base there, because Mao had actually, contrary to common belief, Mao was not Mao was a practical man. He did not have anything against commerce. Okay, he did not hate merchants. He did not hate people profiting. What he hated was profiteering whilst not providing anything for the population. Okay?
Yeah.
This is not, some extreme leftists, or some who claim to be leftists, support Mao because they didn't like profit, because, supposedly Mao didn't like commerce or stamped out capitalism, and then Deng brought back capitalism. No. This is nonsense. Mao very much supported. No, this is not capitalism. Mao very much supported mercantile activity. He actually sent his cadres. Because you see, okay, keep that picture on. The Mao soldiers are, when in combat, they're soldiers, but when not in combat, they're peasants, farmers. Some have a trade, cobblers. Some may have, and Mao actually sent his cadres to work as apprentices in businesses, in mercantile houses with business people. And he actually and that's how he ended up collecting a lot of business tax. He had his soldiers ended up he sent his soldiers, when not in combat, into civilian homes and civilian houses, and to help them with to help ordinary folks, the ordinary peasants, with farm labor in the day, in during when not in combat and not training. And he also sent his officers to those who were literate to gather up, all the village folk, to gather up village folk and teach literacy, and teach them numeracy, teach them literacy, teach them abacus, how to calculate, how to do calculations with the abacus, and that is how, and this is how he actually managed to, because the Chinese Red Army and the later Eighth Route Army, and eventually the People's Liberation Army, up until 1955, from the start of the revolution, which is as soon as he entered Jinggang Mountain in 1927 to 1955, the Chinese Communist Army didn't actually give any salary to soldiers. But they were able to keep them on board because they didn't actually give salary, but they were fed, they were clothed. Okay, we will give you food, we give you clothing, we give you we give you the necessities of what you need, and most importantly, everyone gets the same. Everyone eats out of the same pot. Everyone eats out of everyone wears the same clothes. And when soldiers need to you put on that waterfall. Find the waterfall.
Gotcha. It's a beautiful waterfall. Let me see if I can pull it up. Here we go. Hold on. Boom. Hold on 1 second. Dude, when I saw this in person, like, people don't associate China with, like, in the West with nature and beauty. But look at this. Look how beautiful that is.
Yeah. Every time, for example, when troops need to fetch water, Mao himself and Marshal Zhuge as well. Well, I call him Marshal, but he wasn't Marshal until very much later. Zhuge himself, Commander-in-Chief Zhuge himself, would whip out his carrying stick and his buckets, and personally go to waterfalls or whatever, fresh sources of fresh water, and carry it back to base camp themselves. They would join in. Even the top officers, the top generals, top commanders would join in themselves with manual labor, which is absolutely unheard of in the nationalist camp. Yes, including warlords and Chiang's own, troops as well. Huangpu, the Huangpu clique, if you will, Chiang's own clique as well. It's completely unheard of. Yeah, they promise you over there. They promise you, I don't know, anywhere from between $6 to $8 silver coins per month in salary. But when you get there, you can see it, but you can't actually touch it because it'll all be pocketed by your senior officers, by your CO. And
Wow.
also and in the nationalist army, they'll beat soldiers. They will boss them around like use them like slaves, and any deserters. If they catch a deserter, they would torture them to death. They would skin them alive.
Oh my God!
This is common. This was common practice. This was common practice in Chiang's army, in Chiang Kai-shek's army. This was common practice, and you can understand why. But in Mao's army, this was not only forbidden, but he actually set up a soldiers' committee to reprimand officers for beating soldiers. There was one example, a general called, well, he never received a military rank, but he later became a defense minister in the early 80s, called Geng Biao. Geng Biao came from a family of imperial guardsmen, so he was very much a warrior. He knew his way around a dadao, he knew his way around a sword. And he was caught beating a soldier. The soldiers' committee stood up and said, "No, you can't have this. Can't have this. You must apologize in front of everyone. No, you must apologize in front of everyone. Apologize, and you must own up to your mistake and promise never to do it again. If you do it again, you be demoted or whatever. We will reflect this with senior leaders, and disciplinary action will be taken against you." And as far as food and drink is concerned, food and drink was as far as it was the money, food money and drink money. Food money was it was open. It was transparent. Everybody, it was literally written on a board for everyone to see. Okay, the accounts are very, very clearly written on a board for everyone to see, and also everyone, don't forget, everyone in the army, as much as possible, are being taught how to read and write. Every time they sit down somewhere, every time they rest, they learn literacy lessons. How to read, how to write, how to do sums, and
Beautiful.
So
wow.
So this was how the revolution started.